Welcome to Wake Up Somewhere. Tonight, you'll fall asleep in your modern bed and awaken far away in time, deep within the warm sands and sacred temples of ancient Egypt, at the height of the New Kingdom. As your eyes close here and open there, you find yourself in a quiet chamber carved from sandstone, the air gently scented with sweet incense and lotus blossoms. You are lying on a simple but comfortable bed of woven reeds, covered by soft linen sheets. The stone walls around you are painted with delicate images of lotus flowers, papyrus plants, and hieroglyphic inscriptions that tell stories of gods and pharaohs. A shaft of early morning light streams through a narrow window high up on the wall, casting golden beams across the floor. Somewhere beyond the walls, you hear the distant murmur of flowing water, the ancient, life-giving Nile River, and the faint, rhythmic sound of someone sweeping. You take a moment to let the atmosphere settle over you. Though you know you have traveled to another era, there is no fear here, only curiosity and calm. You notice the texture of the linen against your skin and the cool stone beneath your bare feet as you sit up. You glance down and see that you're wearing a tunic made of light, coarse linen, loosely tied with a simple cord. It feels different from modern fabrics, but it is surprisingly comfortable against the warmth of the day, and the absence of buttons or zippers makes it feel timeless. You stand and look around the chamber. A low wooden table holds a small clay lamp with a little oil still burning, and beside it is a polished alabaster jar with a narrow neck designed to hold scented oils or perfumes. There are baskets woven from date palm fronds, filled with simple household items like pottery shards, small wooden cones, and woven mats. Near the far wall, you see a small wooden chest with metal hinges. Its lid is secured by a cord. You run your fingers along the smooth wood and feel tiny carved patterns, perhaps indicating ownership or a prayer. The hieroglyphs on the walls depict scenes of farmers ploughing, of people making offerings to the gods, and of plants blooming along the Nile's fertile banks. As you move closer, you notice that the images shimmer slightly in the shifting light, almost as if the ancient artists imbued them with life. To one side, there is a doorway covered by a draped curtain of bead strings, each bead carved from stone or wood and painted bright colors. When you push the curtain aside and step through, the beads click quietly against each other, creating a delicate melody that mixes with the morning sounds beyond. You emerge into a small open courtyard filled with potted plants, papyrus reeds, small date palms, and delicate lotus blossoms floating in stone basins of water. The breeze carries the subtle fragrance of flowers, incense, and earth, and the air is alive with the gentle hum of insects and the occasional chirping of birds perched on rooftop edges. The sun hasn't risen high yet, so long shadows stretch across the courtyard, and the edges of the buildings glow with early light. The courtyard is bordered by smooth mud brick walls, plastered and whitewashed to reflect sunlight and keep the interior cool. Along the walls hang woven mats and nets used to dry fruits and seeds. A tall reed ladder leans against one wall, likely used to access the flat roof where herbs and grains are often dried in the sun. In one corner you notice a grinding stone and a wooden mortar, evidence of daily tasks like grinding grain for bread or crushing herbs for medicinal ointments. A low shelf holds clay pots of varying sizes, some sealed with wax and others covered by reed lids. You are struck by how many objects appear both simple and ingenious. Each item is crafted with care, designed to last and to serve a specific purpose. You find yourself admiring the craftsmanship and wonder about the hands that made them. In the distance, beyond the low mud brick walls of this residence, you glimpse the towering silhouettes of monumental structures. Colossal pillars and statues rise against the sky, and you recognize the outlines of a great temple complex not too far away. You see the statues of gods with animal heads, and the wide pylons that mark the entrance to the temple. Despite their size, there is a sense of serenity and balance in their design. Even from here, the carved stone surfaces seem to radiate a timeless calm. You realize you are likely in a town near a major temple, perhaps Thebes or Karnak, where priests and scribes spend their days performing rituals and recording the affairs of the kingdom. The mystery of your arrival lingers in your mind, and you wonder what you are meant to find here. You recall the tales of dream temples where people sought visions and messages from the gods, and you feel a subtle excitement mixed with the restful atmosphere. As you stand there, a gentle voice calls out to you from nearby. A young woman, perhaps in her late teens, dressed in a linen dress and wearing a simple necklace of blue faience beads, approaches carrying a tray of bread and dates. Her eyes are kind, and her hair is neatly braided in several small plaits, which is the fashion of the time. She greets you with a soft smile, and says something in a melodious language you don't fully understand, but you sense her words are welcoming. You notice the cadence and feel of the ancient Egyptian language. Though it is unfamiliar, it feels rhythmic and soothing, with soft consonants and elongated vowels. The woman places the tray on a low table in the courtyard, gestures for you to sit, and offers you the bread. The bread is freshly baked, still warm from the oven, with a crunchy crust and a soft, slightly sweet center. Beside it sits a small bowl of golden honey and a few dried figs. You taste the bread, and the flavor is earthy and pure. The honey is fragrant with hints of wildflowers, and the dates are soft and rich, their sweetness mellowed by the dry heat. The combination is nourishing and comforting, and you realize that despite being in an unfamiliar time, the act of sharing food is universal and grounding. While you eat, the young woman sits beside you and watches you with curiosity. She touches the fabric of your tunic with interest, then points to herself and speaks her name slowly. You repeat it back to her, and she laughs gently, pleased at your attempt. She then points at you, raising her eyebrows in question. You smile and say your own name. The sound of your modern name feels different here, but she repeats it carefully, savoring it like a foreign word. The exchange is simple, yet it anchors you further in this place. She then points toward the distant temple and makes a motion like writing, suggesting perhaps that she is involved in the scribal or temple life. She stands and gestures for you to follow her. You feel a gentle sense of anticipation building, as if there's something she wants you to see. As you leave the courtyard, you pass through a series of halls and rooms. Some are storage rooms filled with amphorae of grain and jars of oil. Others are workrooms where you see older men and women pounding barley or weaving baskets. Everyone moves with purpose, but there is no sense of rush or noise. The atmosphere is calm and focused. The walls of the corridors are lined with more painted scenes, and there are occasional niches holding small statues of gods, like Hathor, with her cow horns and sun disk, or Osiris, the green-skinned lord of the afterlife. Each figure has a serene expression, and the artisans who crafted them imbued them with lifelike detail. In one room, a woman is grinding malachite stone on a flat rock, mixing it with oil to create green eye makeup. She looks up and smiles, her eyelids already painted a vivid shade of green. In another, a man is shaping a wooden chair, his tools simple yet effective. You realize that this house is part of a larger community where each person contributes to daily life through skilled work. As you exit the residential area, a wider street opens up before you. It is not paved in the way you are used to. The ground is hard, packed earth with occasional stones embedded. The street is lined with low mud brick houses with flat roofs, some with small gardens in front. Children run along the street laughing and chasing each other, their laughter echoing off the walls. Men carry baskets filled with vegetables or pottery, while women chat as they return from the market, balancing clay jars of water on their heads. You notice the diversity of people. Some wear plain clothing, while others, perhaps artisans or officials, wear more elaborate linens and jewelry. Everyone seems to know their place in this community, and there is an underlying sense of belonging that feels comforting. The smells of roasting grain, fresh fish, and sweet dates drift from small market stalls. You hear the bleating of goats, the clucking of chickens, and the occasional bray of a donkey. Along the street, you pass a scribe seated in a small alcove. He is surrounded by jars of pigment and strips of papyrus. A group of people stands nearby, waiting their turn to have letters written or contracts drawn up. You watch as he patiently listens to an older woman, then dips his reed brush into ink and carefully draws hieroglyphs onto papyrus. His hands are steady and practiced. You wonder how many stories, contracts, prayers, and records have flowed from his pen over the years. Across from the scribe, a pottery workshop displays rows of clay pots, some unglazed and others painted in red and black patterns. The potter's wheel spins slowly as a young apprentice shapes a vessel under the watchful eye of a master potter. These details anchor you in daily life, reminding you that in every time, people work, create, and communicate. You and the young woman continue along the street, moving closer to the grand temple you glimpsed earlier. The closer you get, the more clearly you see its immense scale. Colossal statues of pharaohs and gods stand on either side of the entrance. The temple walls are covered in carved hieroglyphs and reliefs that tell stories of battles, offerings, and divine blessings. Each inscription is carefully carved, and you can imagine scribes and artisans spending years perfecting each symbol. The sunlight plays across the deep carvings, creating patterns of light and shadow that dance slowly as time passes. You notice scenes of Pharaoh Amenhotep III offering wine and incense to Amun, while the goddess Mut spreads her wings protectively around the royal family. These depictions are more than art. They are sacred records, linking the divine and human realms. A group of priests emerges from the temple's entrance, their heads shaved and their bodies clad in fine linen garments. They carry trays of offerings, loaves of bread, bowls of fruits, and vessels of fragrant oils. And they chant a low melodic prayer as they walk. The sound is soothing, resonating off the stone surfaces of the temple courtyard. The priests place the offerings on a stone altar within the entrance hall, then slowly bow and raise their hands in reverence toward a huge statue of a deity. You stand at a respectful distance, feeling the sacredness of the space. The young woman whispers to you, pointing at the statue. Her words contain the name Amun, the hidden god, the king of gods, revered for his mysterious nature and his power to create from nothing. She also points to smaller statues of Osiris and Isis, explaining that these gods govern life, death, and rebirth. You follow her further, and the sound of your footsteps echoes softly in the vast hall. Massive columns rise on either side, carved to resemble bundles of papyrus stalks and lotus blossoms, their capitals painted vivid blue and green. The ceiling is high, its painted stars still bright after centuries. Faint beams of light filter through small openings high up, creating shafts that illuminate swirling dust particles, making them look like dancing spirits. The air is cool despite the heat outside, and the faint scent of incense lingers. You run your fingers along the stone surface of a column and feel the slight indentations made by ancient tools. The carvings are precise and alive, each symbol representing a sound, a word, or an idea. You think about how this writing system was created, the complexity and beauty of hieroglyphs, and the skill of those who mastered them. At one side of the hall, you notice a scribe sitting cross-legged on a mat, unrolling a sheet of papyrus. He is a middle-aged man with neatly trimmed hair and a broad collar of beads adorning his chest. Using a reed brush and ink, he carefully inscribes a line of hieroglyphs onto the papyrus. His strokes are deliberate and elegant, and you watch as the symbols take shape. You feel a deep respect for his craft, knowing that this writing is the basis for many stories, prayers, and records preserved through the ages. You think of modern calligraphy and how, even across time, the act of writing connects people. The scribe glances up at you briefly and smiles with polite curiosity before returning to his work. On a nearby table are palettes of colored pigments: red ochre, yellow ochre, malachite green, and soot black. These colors are ground and mixed with water or oil to create the paints used on walls and papyrus. The rich hues shimmer under the filtered light. Farther into the temple, you see an open courtyard where sunlight pours in. A large sacred lake sits at one side, its surface calm and reflective. The water glistens in the light, and lotus flowers bloom along its edges. Geese swim slowly across the water, creating gentle ripples. A group of gardeners tends to the plants around the lake, watering them using long scoops shaped like bird heads. You watch a gardener gently lift a lotus flower, and inhale its fragrance before setting it back into the water. The stillness of the lake and the care with which the gardeners work create a feeling of reverence and continuity. A gentle breeze rustles through the reeds, and the leaves of the palm trees sway lazily, casting dappled shadows on the stone. At the center of the courtyard stands a man with elaborate eye makeup. He holds a tall staff topped with a carved representation of a god. He appears to be reciting something, perhaps a hymn or prayer. The sound carries beautifully across the space and resonates in your chest. Even though you cannot understand the words, you feel their significance. You recall the feeling of attending ceremonies or concerts in modern times, the sense of being part of something larger, the collective breath of an audience, the shared moment of reverence. The man's voice is steady, rising and falling in a pattern that feels both ancient and familiar. Around him, other priests wave incense burners, releasing clouds of fragrant smoke that curl and rise like ethereal ribbons. As you continue exploring, you notice a small side chamber, partially hidden behind a screen of reeds and woven mats. The entrance is low, and only a thin sliver of light enters from above. You feel a subtle pull toward this hidden space. The young woman follows your gaze and nods as if she understands your curiosity. She leads you toward the chamber and lifts the mat carefully so you can duck under. Inside, the chamber is cool and dark, its walls covered in finely carved hieroglyphs that are difficult to make out in the dim light. In the center of the floor lies a shallow stone basin filled with water. The surface reflects the faint light from above, and in the water you see small offerings, pebbles, petals, and fragments of papyrus. It feels as though this space is meant for private prayer or meditation, a place where people come to seek guidance or healing. The stillness is palpable, and the air is heavy with the scent of cedar and myrrh. You kneel by the basin and look at the papyrus fragments floating on the surface. One fragment catches your eye. It is small, the size of your palm, and it is inscribed with a series of hieroglyphic symbols. You gently lift it out of the water and hold it under the faint light. The ink hasn't faded entirely. You can see an eye, a bird, a ripple of water, and a star, among other symbols. Without fully understanding why, you feel that this fragment is important. The shapes seem to form a message, and you realize this might be the beginning of the mystery you sensed earlier. The young woman looks at the fragment with wide eyes, then at you, as if expecting you to understand. You slip the fragment carefully into your tunic, feeling its slightly damp surface against the fabric. You realize you need to decipher the message, but you are not a trained Egyptologist. However, you recall from modern times certain knowledge about hieroglyphs. You remember that the symbol of an eye can be I or represent watchfulness, that a bird often represents a sound like A or the concept of flight, and that water ripples can mean N or waters. A star can be S or signify the night sky. You piece together possibilities in your mind, aligning the hieroglyphs with sounds and concepts. You try to be patient, understanding that ancient writing can have multiple meanings. You think of modern cryptograms and puzzles you solved as a child, and how patience and pattern recognition were key. You also recall that ancient Egyptian writing sometimes used pictograms for entire ideas, so the combination might be more poetic than literal. As you study the papyrus, you hear a soft voice behind you. An elderly priest enters the chamber. He has a long, white linen robe and a necklace of polished stones. His face is lined with age, and his eyes are wise and gentle. He does not seem surprised to see you. He speaks slowly, his voice low and resonant. Though you don't understand his words, you sense that he is explaining something about the papyrus. He gestures toward the symbols and then toward a small shelf carved into the wall. On the shelf rests a small alabaster jar, sealed with wax. The jar is inscribed with the same eye, bird, water, and star. The priest carefully breaks the seal and removes a rolled papyrus from inside. He gently unrolls it, revealing more hieroglyphs written in a neat hand. He points to certain symbols, then to the fragment you found. He is showing you where the fragment fits within the larger text. The young woman watches intently, her eyes following the priest's gestures, clearly fascinated. You watch as he places the fragment onto the roll, aligning the edges. The symbols form a sentence now, and even though you don't fully read the language, you see that the eye is followed by water and star, then a bird. You recall your basic knowledge again, trying to assign sounds. Eye or seeing, water, N, star, S, bird, A. Is it I, N, S, A? That doesn't make sense. Then you think of how the water symbol can also mean waves, life, and the bird could represent a letter like A. Another possibility emerges. The combination could be a phrase meaning, watch the waves under the stars, or look to the river at night. The priest nods slowly, as if he understands your thought process. He gently touches the symbols, and then points upward, possibly toward the sky. It seems the message may be telling you to look at the night sky, or the river under the stars. You feel a sense of wonder and curiosity. You leave the chamber, carefully placing the papyrus fragment back on the shelf, and follow the priest and the young woman out into the sunlight. In the courtyard, the sound of music has started. A group of musicians plays reed flutes and small harps, the melodies light and soothing. Dancers move slowly, their arms extended gracefully, their bodies swaying in time with the rhythm. They are performing a ritual dance for a festival honoring the goddess Hathor, goddess of joy, music, and love. The air seems to shimmer with the energy of celebration and devotion. You find yourself swaying gently to the rhythm, your body responding to the ancient music. The musicians' instruments are beautifully crafted, with intricate carvings and inlays. Some instruments are familiar, like lyres and flutes, while others are unique, producing hauntingly beautiful tones. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the heat becomes more intense. The young woman leads you away from the temple and toward the river. A wide pathway lined with palm trees leads down to the banks of the Nile. Along the way you pass farmers working in the fields. They use simple wooden plows pulled by oxen, and their movements are slow and deliberate. They stop to wave as you pass by, their faces friendly and open. In the distance, you see men and women harvesting wheat and barley, tying the stalks into meat bundles. The fields are a vibrant green, contrasting with the sandy desert beyond. The narrow irrigation channels reflect the sky and keep the soil fertile. You notice how the farmers use shadow devices, long poles with weights at one end, to lift water from the canals into the fields. The rhythm of their work is hypnotic, a gentle counterpoint to the music still echoing from the temple. At the riverbank, the world opens up. The Nile flows wide and calm, its surface shimmering in the sunlight. Palm trees line the edges, and birds fly overhead. Small papyrus boats bob gently at the shore, tied to wooden posts. Fishermen cast nets from the boats, their silhouettes graceful against the water. The water smells fresh and earthy, mixed with the faint scent of reeds and river mud. You watch as a fisherman pulls in his net, revealing glistening fish that flop in the bottom of the boat. He looks up and smiles at you, then gestures as if inviting you to join him on the water. You step into the boat carefully, feeling the gentle rocking beneath your feet. The fisherman unties the rope and pushes off from the shore with a long pole. As the boat drifts into the current, you feel the soft movement of the water below. The Nile carries you along, and the breeze cools your face. The fisherman hums a simple melody as he works, a tune that feels timeless. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the rhythm of the boat and the hum of the song wash over you. When you open them again, you see the landscape rolling by. Fields, palm groves, small villages built of mud brick, and the distant outlines of pyramids far to the north. The boat passes a group of water birds, ibis and herons, standing gracefully in the shallows. Their long legs and curved beaks look almost ornamental against the water. The fisherman brings you to the opposite bank of the river, where there is a small island covered in reeds and trees. You step out onto the bank and thank him. He nods, his eyes warm, and he gestures toward a narrow path that winds through the foliage. You sense that he knows something about your journey, though no words are exchanged. The path leads into a grove of flowering trees whose branches provide shade from the sun. The ground beneath the trees is soft and covered with fallen petals. You notice the colors, pinks, blues, and whites, dappled with sunlight filtering through the leaves. The air is cooler here, and the scent of blossoms is more intense. You hear the soft buzzing of bees and the distant croak of frogs hidden among the reeds. As you walk along the path, you come across a group of children sitting on a mat. They are playing a game with small stones and drawing figures in the sand. Their laughter is light, and they look up when they see you. One child stands and approaches, holding a small wooden board covered in scribbles. She shows it to you proudly. On the board are simple drawings of animals, birds, cows, cats, and a few hieroglyphic symbols. You realize she is practicing writing with a wooden stylus. Her writing is clumsy but enthusiastic. You smile and point to the symbols, trying to recall their sounds. She giggles and corrects your pronunciation, showing you the proper way to draw a bird or a snake. It strikes you that education in this time, though different, shares a universal joy, the excitement of learning and the pride of showing your achievements. The other children gather around, curious about you. They touch her tunic, feeling its weave, and ask questions you cannot understand, but their tone is friendly. You continue along the path, and the trees thin out. You find yourself in front of a low hill. A series of steps carved into the rock leads to a doorway set into the hillside. Two stone statues flank the doorway, their features worn by time but still recognizable as guardians. One statue depicts a jackal-headed god, likely Anubis, and the other depicts a falcon-headed god, perhaps Horus. You feel a slight shiver of anticipation as you climb the steps. The air becomes cooler, and the brightness of the day dims as you enter the rock-cut passage. The walls are adorned with carved scenes of the afterlife, of gods weighing hearts against feathers, and of the soul traveling through the night on a boat. A faint glow emanates from deeper inside, inviting you onward. The atmosphere is solemn but not frightening. It feels like entering a sacred space meant for introspection and discovery. As your eyes adjust to the dimness, you hear a soft voice chanting from within. The chant is like a murmur, low and soothing, and it reverberates through the stone passage. You follow the sound and find a small chamber lit by a single oil lamp. The walls are covered in paintings of stars, and on the floor is a black stone slab with more hieroglyphic inscriptions. In the center of the slab lies a circular disc with grooves carved into it, and around the disc is a ring of small stones. An elderly woman sits cross-legged beside the disc. Her hair is silver and braided, and her skin is darkened by the sun. She looks up at you with calm eyes. She gestures for you to sit opposite her. She places her hands on the disc and begins to rotate it slowly. As she turns it, the grooves align with the stones around it, revealing different star patterns etched into the stone. You recognize that this is an ancient astronomical instrument used to track the movement of the stars and planets. You recall from modern science how ancient Egyptians aligned their temples with celestial events, like the solstices and equinoxes. You remember reading about how they tracked the heliacal rising of Sirius, which marked the flooding of the Nile. The woman points to a specific star pattern and then looks at you expectantly. The pattern resembles the eye, water, star, and bird symbols from the papyrus fragment. You realize that the message you found might be connected to a specific alignment of stars. Perhaps at a certain time, when the stars align in a particular configuration, a secret is revealed. The woman begins to chant again, and you feel the vibration of her voice through the stone. The chamber feels like a timeless place, where knowledge of the heavens meets the mystery of the earth. You close your eyes and let your mind float, picturing the night sky. The disc continues to turn, and you imagine the stars moving slowly across the celestial sphere. The woman's chant flows around you like water, carrying you deeper into a meditative state. You sense that this knowledge is both practical and spiritual. The stars guide the flooding of the river, the seasons of planting and harvesting, and also the journeys of souls. When you open your eyes again, the woman stops turning the disc and points to a particular arrangement. She then rises and places her hand on your shoulder, gently guiding you toward another passageway. The passage is narrow, and the air is cool. The walls are decorated with images of boats sailing across the night sky, carrying the sun god through the 12 hours of the night. The imagery is both cosmic and comforting. The Egyptians believed that each night the sun traveled through the underworld, defeating chaos to rise again in the morning. This belief gave them hope and structure. The elderly woman hums softly as she walks, her voice echoing off the stone. At the end of the passage, you find yourself standing at the entrance to a hidden chamber. Unlike the main temple's halls, this room is small and personal. A stone bench lines one side, and above it is a small skylight that allows a single beam of light to illuminate a stone tablet in the center of the floor. On the tablet is an inscription with the eye, water, star, and bird symbols, repeated in different combinations. There is also a small circular indentation on the tablet. The elderly woman picks up a polished stone sphere and places it in the indentation. It fits perfectly. She then steps back and watches you. You sense that the sphere might unlock something. You place your hand gently on top of it and feel a slight vibration, almost like a purring sound. Slowly, you turn the sphere, and as you do, a faint rumbling resonates through the stone. The beam of light from the skylight shifts slightly, aligning with a groove on the sphere. When the groove and light line up, the inscriptions on the tablet begin to glow faintly. The patterns of the eye, water, star, and bird become more pronounced, and you sense that they are telling you something. You feel the weight of history and the care with which ancient people designed this mechanism. You recall your modern knowledge of constellations. Perhaps the eye corresponds to a particular star, maybe Sirius, representing the goddess Isis and the flooding of the Nile. The bird could be Orion's belt, representing the god Osiris. The water might refer to the Milky Way, seen as a cosmic river. The star could be a marker of time. You realize that at a certain time of year, these stars align with the groove, and the message becomes clear. Look to the river when the stars above the falcon align with the eye. The message implies that on a night when those stars appear in a certain position, something significant happens by the river. You think of the rituals you observed earlier and the importance of the Nile in everyday life. The river is both a physical and spiritual axis for these people. You feel a thrill of discovery. This is the gentle mystery you were drawn to unravel. You wonder what happens by the river under this star alignment. Maybe it is a ritual, a dream ceremony, or a moment of divine communication. The elderly woman smiles and nods, confirming that you have understood. She leads you back through the passage, out of the hill, and into the light of day. As you step outside, the late afternoon sun bathes the landscape in golden light. Long shadows stretch across the ground, and the air is warm but less intense than midday. The sun has begun its descent toward the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the landscape. You walk back toward the riverbank, the memory of the star patterns fresh in your mind. When you reach the river, you see people gathering. They are arranging mats along the shore, lighting small oil lamps, and preparing baskets of offerings. It appears that tonight there will be a ritual or celebration by the river. You recall the message to look at the river under specific stars. You feel a sense of anticipation, but also a deep calm. You are here to observe, to be part of something timeless without forcing any outcome. While you wait for nightfall, you sit with the young woman on a mat near the water. She offers you a small dish of lentils seasoned with coriander and cumin. The flavor is hearty and rich, a perfect sustenance after a long day. She tells you about her daily life in gestures and simple words. You learn that she helps in the temple gardens, tending lotus flowers and papyrus plants used in rituals. She shows you how she knits nets from flax fibers, which are used to catch fish. You share a few stories of your own by miming actions from your modern life, riding in a car, reading on a glowing screen. And she laughs, amused by concepts she cannot imagine. These exchanges remind you that human connection transcends language and time. As the sky darkens, more lamps are lit. Their flickering light reflects on the gentle ripples of the Nile. The people sit quietly, watching the sky. The first stars appear, faint at first, then brighter. You look up and recognize the star pattern from the disk. The eye-like star appears near the horizon, shimmering above the palm trees, and the group of stars forming the bird shape appears higher up. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a faint river of light. You glance back down at the river and see that its surface mirrors the stars above. It is as if the heavens and the earth are connected by this watery reflection. The ritual begins with a low hum, a collective chant from the people sitting by the river. They sing softly, the notes rising and falling like waves. The sound is soothing and hypnotic. Priests walk along the shore, sprinkling water from palm branches and placing floating offerings into the river. Small woven baskets filled with flowers, fruits, and bits of bread. Each offering floats gently downstream, carrying the prayers and hopes of the people. You watch the baskets drift, their contents fragrant and colorful. Their movement is slow and deliberate, matching the pace of the chant. Children watch with wide eyes, perhaps imagining the baskets carrying their wishes to the gods. Elders nod and whisper, remembering similar rituals from years past. The stars become brighter, and the pattern of the eye, water, star, and bird is now fully visible in the sky. You feel a deep sense of connection between the celestial and the terrestrial, between the ancient Egyptians and yourself. The river reflects the stars, and for a moment, the distinction between sky and water seems to dissolve. You are enveloped in a sense of timelessness. The people around you close their eyes, swaying gently, their faces illuminated by the glow of the lamps. The air is cool, but filled with warmth from the collective presence. In the distance, you hear the faint sound of a flute, its notes weaving through the chant like a thread of light. A priestess approaches you, carrying a small clay cup filled with liquid. She hands it to you with a gentle smile. The liquid is sweet, perhaps made from dates and honey, and has the faint aroma of herbs. You take a sip, and the sweetness spreads across your tongue. It feels nourishing and grounding. The priestess gestures to the river, indicating that you should pour the remaining liquid into the water as an offering. You do so, watching the golden stream mingle with the dark river. As you release the liquid, you feel yourself letting go of any lingering tension or worry. It is a symbolic release, a way of connecting your own life to the larger flow of time and water. The young woman beside you mimics your gesture, pouring her own offering, and together you watch as the ripples expand and fade. As the ritual continues, the chanting gradually fades. The people settle into silence, each one lost in their own thoughts and feelings. You lie back on a mat, eyes turned toward the sky. The stars above are vivid, and you can see the path of the Milky Way stretching across the heavens. It is easy to imagine ancient Egyptians lying like this thousands of years ago, drawing strength and comfort from the same stars. You think about how the patterns in the sky have remained constant, guiding both ancient sailors and modern dreamers. You feel small and infinite at the same time. The mystery of the hieroglyphs, the message to look at the river under the stars, has led you to this moment. You realize that the true significance of the message may not have been about discovering a hidden treasure or unlocking a secret chamber. Instead, it was about guiding people to a place of peace and connection with the cosmos. The eye, the river, the star, and the bird are symbols of seeing, flowing, shining, and flying. 4 actions that mirror the human experience of observing, moving through life, seeking light, and lifting toward higher understanding. The papyrus, the star disk, and the ritual all serve to bring you and the community together under the night sky. As the night deepens, the ambient sounds become softer. The occasional splash of a fish, the soft rustle of palm fronds, and the distant hoot of an owl blend into a gentle soundtrack of nature. The lamps burn low, casting tiny circles of light on the river. You feel your eyes growing heavy, and your breath slows naturally. You find yourself thinking about home, about the modern bed you fell asleep in, and about the connection between past and present. You feel grateful for the opportunity to witness and participate in this ancient ritual, and to feel the timeless rhythm of the Nile and the stars. In your drowsy state, you wonder how this experience will change you when you return to your time. Perhaps you will carry a new appreciation for the night sky and the ways human beings have always sought meaning in the stars. Perhaps you will feel more connected to the flow of history and more attentive to the rituals that give life structure and comfort. You know that you do not need to solve every mystery or decipher every symbol to find peace. Sometimes, simply being present and open to what unfolds is the greatest gift. The young woman rests her head on her knees beside you, her eyes half closed, the rhythm of her breathing steady and calm. The elders begin to whisper stories. One tells of the goddess Nut, who swallows the sun each evening and gives birth to it each morning. Another speaks of a traveler who followed a star across the desert and found a hidden oasis. These stories are told in soft, soothing voices, blending with the night sounds. You listen, letting the images form in your mind. You see Nut arching across the sky, her body studded with stars, and you imagine the traveler following a single star to find water and life. These stories, passed down through generations, carry the collective wisdom and imagination of the people. As the last of the baskets disappear down the river and the chanting ceases entirely, the community begins to drift away. People pick up their mats and walk quietly back to their homes, their faces relaxed, their movements slow and content. The young woman who greeted you in the morning returns to your side. She smiles and takes your hand, gently guiding you along the path back toward her family home. The walk is silent, but the silence is companionable. The moonlight illuminates the path, casting silver shadows on the sand. You feel the sand cool beneath your feet, and you notice the delicate patterns left by beetles and lizards that have moved across the surface. When you reach the house, the courtyard is lit by a single lamp. The plants that were bright and green in the morning are now dark silhouettes. The air is cooler, and a light breeze rustles through the reeds hanging over the doorway. The young woman prepares a simple bed of linens for you and gestures for you to rest. You lie down, feeling the weight of the day and the softness of the linens beneath you. She sits near you for a few moments, humming a quiet tune that feels like a lullaby. Her voice blends with the distant sound of water and the gentle whisper of the breeze. She touches your forehead lightly, a gesture of comfort, then rises and withdraws, leaving you alone with your thoughts. As your eyes close, the images of the day replay in your mind. You see again the painted columns of the temple, the scribe's careful strokes on papyrus, the lotus blossoms floating in clear water, the star disk turning in the hidden chamber, the glowing hieroglyphs, and the stars reflected in the Nile. Each memory is like a jewel, shining quietly in the darkness behind your eyelids. You feel the presence of the gods and the ancestors, not in a heavy or imposing way, but like a gentle warmth that surrounds you. You think of the young woman's kindness, the fisherman's silent guidance, the priest's patience, and the elderly woman's wisdom. Each person you met played a role in your journey, guiding you gently toward this moment of rest. Your breathing slows, and your thoughts become softer and more diffuse. You feel yourself drifting between wakefulness and sleep, just as the sun god drifts between day and night. You think of how the ancient Egyptians believed that sleep was a time when the soul traveled and received messages. Perhaps tonight, as you sleep in this ancient world, you will dream of messages carried by the river and the stars. Perhaps you will meet the gods in your dreams and receive their gentle guidance. Or perhaps you will simply rest deeply, lulled by the memories and the sounds of the Nile. Either way, you trust that you are held by the ancient rhythm of this place. In the last moments before sleep overtakes you, you remember that you are here for only a night. The dawn will bring a new day, and eventually your eyes will open in your own bed, the time and place you call home. But for now, in this quiet space, you surrender to the ancient rhythm of the river and the cosmos. You allow yourself to be part of the great flow of time, knowing that you will carry this experience with you always. The stars outside continue their slow journey across the sky, and the Nile continues its eternal flow. You are at peace. If you enjoyed this journey to ancient Egypt and found peace among the temples and the stars, consider joining us for future travels. We invite you to subscribe to our channel and tell us where you'd like to wake up next. Each episode is a new opportunity to explore, to connect with different cultures and histories, and to find rest through storytelling. For now, let the calm of the Nile and the whisper of the stars guide you into a deep and restful sleep. Good night.